Alright, I'm going to go now. Jige, Hanjuke, Dejuki, Dien, Sambo, Top Tibet, Dien, Delia, Danganju, Gewachima, Sadi, Gewachima, and the Tarbada, Temji Kimbigi, Digi to be Tablandi, Lam Yamin Chagores, and the Ganeshores, and Anju, let them your conjusum, and this you chibi, and this are. The other conjusumlia and Chegopuata, Sosuke Guno, conjusum, Gabu set up, Deliana, Semja, Tamjiga to the San Yokoba, Topra Shores, and Pukuno, Denishke, and indeed in San Yokoba to be Chedo, and Ya conjusum, Chibupus, and Bevache, and the Pueta, Yajada, Mameda, that G, and Sosuke Gang, Yobadus in the Puyada, and Dene, and Sosuke. The so and was something which was Diana to be Chevasi, so you end, Simja Tamjet, Dewade Dena Sempike, and then a Chike, Jamba Comia, Simja Dunga and Jawa show Simpiki, Nija Comia, then the Lunga Yusumi, Chishalia, Sevet, Nubi Chekame, Simpi sometimes Sudim Sunyala Sobata, the Negata, Sobacomia, Junjusuma, the Negatiala Sobotus count to the Chewores, the Nejabaina. Narjibi, Dibatia, Majang, and the Gawatigia, and Siki Passa, more Kondo Page, and do stories. And the negate Gawasa, then Jelia, Gawasa, Batia, and Simja Tamjigi. To one that San Yoko to be Guru shows in the Moaja warriors, and the Shadi, Nijewa, the kitchen warriors. The Majabaina, and then Anjuge, Kidu Kable, Jibukiware, Shidu Kable, Jibutra, Mato, and then Anjuge. Gujada, Ninuda, the nigger corridor, Kazayabena, the Zukeria Kaya Mares, since I didn't to get you to Baina, Gawa to pick Gawadi, and the Shiduka like Ketra Yores, the Neza, the Negin Yamnaja Kitchen Boreas at Taran, and to Sinakasan, the Nego Shuro. Ci sei niente più la medicina che va sa ora di bajang se che va sa bene di bajang ru se sti.
Good morning. So yesterday afternoon, we continued to look at how to live a meaningful life, how to make the very most of this incredible opportunity that we have all achieved through the attainment of this precious human rebirth, with the accumulation of all 18 freedoms and opportunities. And we saw that the very best way to live a life of meaning, is to live a life where we are accumulating virtue, developing virtuous ways of thinking. And we went through a meditation practice that one is encouraged to engage in on a daily basis, where one generates a motivation of refuge and bodhicitta, and thereby with a motivation of wanting to accumulate the causes so as to become a Buddha for the sake of others, and with a mind turned with trust and faith towards the three jewels, one makes offerings of varying kinds. And mentioned yesterday in summary or in brief, offerings can be divided into two classes: those of material offerings, such as water bowls and lights and flowers and so forth, and the offering of practice. And so thereby one is encouraged to make offerings of both material and the practice that one is doing. Having made offerings, accumulated merit, so as to aid one's spiritual development, then one reflects further on bodhicitta, starting with reflecting more deeply on the sufferings of samsara, generating the determination for oneself to arise and all sentient beings to arise from the suffering realms of samsara. Having gone through the stages of that meditation and generated bodhicitta, one meditates on the various practices of the bodhisattva, such as ethical restraint, the determination not to bring harm to others by restraining one's mind from being under the influence of the afflictions. And then lastly, one dedicates all the virtue that one has accumulated so that each and every being may attain the enlightened state of Buddhahood. Moreover, yesterday we looked at how if we do not live a life such as this, but we live just the regular life that people live in society. When their time of death comes, and it will come, they will leave all that they have striven to accumulate in this life, such as cherished relationships, possessions, reputation, and so forth. All of that will be left behind. And how much virtue they can take with them to the next life, this is perhaps not as much as it could have been. So we must be sure that we have a correct balance with a focus on accumulating virtue, so that we have a large store of merit to take with us to our next life. So considering from where we finished yesterday, at the end of the 12th, into the 13th verse, the short lifespan is fleeting like a flash of lightning. However much you have done from now, this is the time to attain everlasting happiness. Think about this deeply. Do not return empty-handed from this precious human life. Thus you are well advised to accumulate as much merit as possible.
Cedong dini lo shin kyu yu zamba sidi dang han zi da misi se di ji Gabriel misi ringbure se da di chi gor di na da misi se di ga zi ringwa de ne ya la si ma de de me ro ji zan ji ne ce tong dong res an di na de na ja de bi nge ba ma nge ba ska yo ma ro ji zan ce ding a de ce tong dong res这原来我是我这老东抓忙不对的，这内人不是该要嘛？但人不的呢，人不要办的，但这个老忙不要这样给你现在给我做过来，做做来，先别给对用过的话，现在的那些的那样子老东抓忙不家抓忙不对要嘛，才通通热死。现在的呢老心预战吧，现在等我这个南家来啊，差不多就是的老去 Q 间的主机界的 Q 间嘛也做了吧，这人现在的。才通通的，是的，是的。今年咱老咱们去的地区，今年肉是吃过的，是鱼咱们起码都要买的是。就咱当然就西山的，开始说是说五的怕去了当这拿了天嘛都不办，今年起码都得西肉了，是就咱今年个通通是也是就咱吃通通的，运政部那要买的，买完这就咱们起码都买完了，就咱今年咱这个。给我住院的给的，等到了开始送上给我住院的给，但是那个就回到给的住土的别是住过嘛，到运动不节嘛的那个的提前节嘛呀住院是你怕7天节完呢，的在的那个人不要嘛，大是过吧的，等到了。
The short lifespan is fleeting like a flash of lightning. This, again, is an important point to reflect on, because we live our life under the illusion of we have time. We have this impression that there are still years, probably decades ahead of us. We've lived under this illusion for our whole life. But the reality is, our life is fleeting. Time is actually passing very quickly. And that the real meaning of this line is that this opportunity that we have to accumulate extensive virtue, to radically transform our mind, this is fleeting. This is rapidly drawing to an end. Moreover, when we think about the expanse of lifetimes that we have all lived thus far, and those many more still to come, this lifetime itself is fleeting. This opportunity we have to spiritually develop is fleeting. And in this way, or for this reason, it's likened to a flash of lightning. Reflecting like this will lead us to the same outcome. We have to strive to use what remains of this life well, ensuring that our mind stays virtuous and it becomes ever more so. We should not procrastinate, delay till better days, till these current projects are over. 。
We do not have an abundance of time. 。
We do not have an abundance of time. 。 We do not have an abundance of time. 。 We do not have an abundance of time. 。 We do not have an abundance of time. 。 We do not have an abundance of time. 。 We do not have an abundance of time. 。 We do not have an abundance of time. 。 We do not have an abundance of time.
다 되니기 저기 겨울도 비에게 뒤수로시 삼다위네 당아서 아메기네 사실로 니슈스 마로바도네 그로 대단원 보고 충충으로 봐로 주라지 보고라 제가 하고 삼역화하시어 삼당토요 말와 안된 마지는 지금 롭라도고 지금 롭정하시고 세티고 난 지금 로 충충에 자디 도시는 지금 나와게라 제전로 예 지금 니슈스 바도네 되네시네 최샤샤샤 삼다에 갈하고 책으로 다른 마지는 로 바직 때 게스트번에 로 게주스토드는 되네 아지는 아직 뜻 로라 전부 차와서 숙도비네 냠된 잼바다나 되어서 냠야다 되는시도 디지기 안지게 제투야시메로와 지다데 바라도 로 힙주스토사로와 로 게되어번에 다로 죽주리 다로 죽주 나올 양아지 아직 소소게 내가려고야 다가 두두스 지geb두갑이야 최지 냠는 제디 두수디 뉴뉴로 휴차용으로 제가 되네자 되네기 뉴뉴지래 아다 제마진세 파샤샤네 딜 뉴두로 제가 되네자 되네기 제게 소소수부 타다 탕부 여바다 안 되네기 지금 리바디기 로다 리바 잼바디기 템부 유디캅라 강투두 제고레스 안 제마제와선 두슬라서나 로니슈니엘네 보제 제라야만 제마제도 르니슈 예주스 파도는 야직 니고합티게 제제어섬나 네삼 류다 셈르토네 제투엘레 데스칼레카요레 제자 디네자 디 로두주티 바라데 제어 제마제어 제어섬 샤샤바나 파장네 두시바네 네디 고합티 바직 냠네제 고합티 라두고레스 제자 디바라텔레 아주 호다바다 제어데 계침부레서 돈나 인보딩 아주 두시네 고하루시티네 랍자루시 난고로와
When we look at a general expanse of a lifetime, the first period, there's really not much opportunity for spiritual development in that one is physically growing, one is mentally developing. So the process of childhood into early adulthood is filled with a period of growth and development and education. So that's the first large chunk of everyone's life. The final period of an average life, this is marked by decline in capacity, both physical and mental decline, where one's body does not have the endurance that it once had, one's mind doesn't have the flexibility and the recall that it once had. So the average or general lifespan is enveloped in these two periods where one cannot really apply oneself as well as one would like to spiritual development. That period in between, that is where one has our fullest capacity. So depending on, but in that period in between though, one can all too easily be consumed by varying activities relating to career, family and so forth. So here we need to think about this. Again, the purpose of reflecting on this, wherever we are within this cycle, is to be aware of this expanse of time that we believe we have. Really we do not. And to challenge that belief, to give us courage, to turn away from our habitual tendencies, to delay, to not fully apply ourselves, and to rather strive to develop our way of thinking, to develop ourselves spiritually.
니미지레 삼다웨네 아주에 서럽선의 고다니규에서네 지게 지신시도 삼의 차로지 바 지차로로 다 쇼에 남세베네 되네 아직 아주게 쇼샤사야서 다 님고 칼라사야 뒤서로다 안된데스 녜세 야야 지도 되네 도시네 지 최럽 체베네 도시는 뒤지 고시가데 뒤지디 뉴뉴차로 봐. 나 되네 레가로 조고 근데 는 딜레 뉴화차로 그래. 진짜 도스 지geb도 갑라서 도시네 지그 고갑되게 배 지 뉴뉴로 차기도 와.
We can see this same process repeated in a single day. The day starts with varying activities to set us up for the day to come. And the day ends with a period of relaxation and then decline into hopefully deep restful sleep. This is quite similar from an average lifespan. And it's just really that bit in between where we have our full capacity. But that is usually consumed with a lot of activities, engaging with others, work, and so forth. So when we take the illustration of a single day, we really recognize how little free time we have, time to focus on our spiritual development.
Chigi dende sin kewa chima ina benenga city samdana dene pa maombana digi yura and they are kewa chima digi yada kewa ten sambo toya da detail digi tuya and the maombana and the chig ya lam nyamne je tarbada tamje kembe ko toyagi da nyamne jehegi digi tubegi Gyusaeki, Dusiti, Dering Res, Tada, Manzo Zubo Tango Yoba, and the Ganzo Dusin Dusu Yedebadi, Duviaki Dusu, the Dering Red Asor, Gader Jagan, Chige, Dende Chik, Dubu Dering Inos, Dering Res, Chesna Dada Ganzo Dusin, Geju, Dupche, Digi Duvia, Geju, the Yam, Cudipa, Matuba, Samatuba, and the Mohobana, and Jigga Galahores, Chesa, Shidovana, Gewachima, Leomore, that Chimetella, Digi to be a Nielman, depending on the Sanyi Sugar San, Dirin Patu, Mato, Dirin Dedica, and the Sanyi Sugar, the Danga Short Savos, and Dubje Diminus, Galahawachar, a Dinashi, on the machine Niela, Diringi Dusutella, Go up Yudu Kabla, and Gewachima Digi to a good Tadene, was sour, Dusutita de Res, that the Masawashe, Shidovana, Gewach Leon. Digi to be a good medu, Digi Yakala was. Says I didn't say Gares Chevina, Legaro, Chicanes Yovina, Dusutuno dinner in a Diringi Dusutelia, go up Yude Bachetelia, and the Gawa to be a good Diring race, the nether didn't do board, Labra, some said the nigger, some tango, they need to do in the Redua, Diring Maruna, go up Ragman, Diring to use a pair of Poresha, Dinsangi, Dugins and some Daja, and the Diring come to the two race.
Into the 13th verse. However much you have done from now, this is the time to attain everlasting happiness. This builds on a lot of what we've looked at in this text thus far. We've all come to this point of where we are right now, independent on remarkable causes that we have attained. We all have tremendous good qualities. And throughout this life, we have been developing those good qualities. Hence, we find ourselves here in this rebirth with this remarkable opportunity. Recognize that, but build on it. Build on it. Don't be content. Don't allow oneself to continue to be deceived by the view that I have time. But rather remind oneself of the certainty of our death and the uncertainty of the time of death. Because none of us can say with any certainty whether this will come tomorrow or even today. So therefore the time is right now to build on the good imprints that we have, the good qualities that we have, and to do so with a clear goal that we are accumulating causes to ensure ongoing good rebirths, because our next rebirth may come at any time, and moreover, to continue from life to life in our process of spiritual development, accumulating virtue. So in brief, we need to look with a clearer view at the certainty of our death and where much of our time and energy goes, and reprioritize, gain a more correct balance, and thereby we can build on what we've already achieved.
Dalju Rinchin Tonglo Maji Chixera. Dalju Rinchin Tonglo Maji Chixera, Tonglo Basene, Benecalaji, Lenga Leche, two Lenga Chala Lensi, the Lesache, Chala the Machiaje Palodo, and Tongolo, Machiaje, 강존 수 랭가 레버에 돼 나도 계시에 잠바 제는 봐 이제 당아 뒤서 파도 우선 조선 파도도 되지 랭가 도와데 사지데 레어데 레어 말어 동보 로로 봐 진짜 동로세 디시로 지다네 다제 나데 데라 가서 워스나 다주 린친서 디링아서 레 밀리 림보치 다주 밀리 림보치 톱되어레스 제산 된 데려야 가서 남주 배주다야 시고 삼다 요데 바시레스 제산 가서 된 림보치 나시레스 된 데려야 지금 가서 개와치마 하다 미고 모토에기 규리게 디린 사투여로 타바다 탐지 캠비기 규리야 디린 곰 냠nen지도 두스 죽게와 죽투고레스 제산 디니게 개와 죽투비게 디니 띵 야고지 레바 데라 마두바지 가야 마두바지 안두시네 시소바네 동고로바다 지바레스 자라 랭가 도제 가야 마제 로로바 디나시 디링에 덴주기 땡르 림보치도 텔야 계주주지 야침 디기두비 규사야게 니바디 여바질이야 안지 마두바지 로로네 동바로로 거랬는데 계주 가야 개와 가야 개 동보로 거랬어 제산 디네 지겨 말레스 제산 딜리 땡델야 강투도 두고 제 두고 그래서 제산 두신에 개와 마사바제네 마시아로 거다 동로 마제스 디네게 동로 마지시 있어요.
In the third line, do not return empty-handed from this precious human life. See, this may well have happened to you. Imagine a situation where you go somewhere to do something particular, but then you end up getting distracted. Maybe you meet friends and you engage in conversation, a lot of laughter, or you talk about problems and you think about talk with them about how you can overcome your problems. And then you end up leaving, not having fulfilled the purpose of your visit, but rather having been caught up in distraction of either having a good time and enjoying oneself or trying to overcome some fleeting problems. But in the end, not fulfilling your purpose. So this sometimes can happen. We need to recognize this and ensure that this life isn't in this way spent in distraction. We have a remarkable opportunity to accumulate vast stores of virtue, to develop powerful, virtuous ways of thinking, to utilize what remains as this opportunity to do so, and thereby you can have confidence that you will not die with regret, you will not die with disappointment and not having fulfilled your potential.
Digi Tubiyaki Tusu Tere, Tisan Darjuki Ten Sambo Tubiyaki Ten Sambo di top to Yores, Digan Den Jubu Gures, Tisan Maduba Chine, Donglochi, Maduba Chisomban, Donglo Chadugures, Dine Donglochi Mares, the Somanza, Dangan the Tubia de Gares to Gures, Danganzulia, Chiki Yamenche, Samutanadi, Kasan, Shubanaji, Chisan Dangan Tushine. Semji Korwigi Dunga Samda Korwi Dunga Delete Matanete Tabmido Korwi Dunga Delete Targo Udu Sempigi Samlashda Dino Korwi Dunga Dele that Targo Zida Deane Rang Jibu Membache Semjan Tamje Rana Shin Dewa Dioba the Dunga Midiobare Dineza Semjan Tamje Dunga de Targo Korwi Dunga the Targo the Tarpa said Semjan Tamje Korwi Dunga le Targo Udu Samje Dineza Semjan Tamje Digi Dugu or de Deva de Raya Kalekabo, Dunga Dugu, Dunga de Nardugu or Dineza, Semjatamje, Deva de Dena, Sembe Temper Show, Sembe Dushin, the some anybody Ticharo, Dambo, the Kuru Dunga Guendo, or Dunga the Tarwood, de la Tarbe Taba Tobus and be some Dambo de Da. The Niba de la, Tisada Rana, Semjatamje, Deva Dioba, the Dunga Meduba Chiba, Neza, Semjatamje, Deva de Temper Show, Sembe Denigi, the Jambacom. That's Simjan Dewa da Tembala, Dunga da Madana, Dewa de Tengi or Marwa, the Neza Simjatu Dunga da Tragu to Trawa Show, Sempigeta Dunga, Traduki Nishikom, the Dunga de Ziada Bene Delia, she Samana di Bara Dunga da Trawa Show, some Tadu, Dunga Delia, Taji Milena, Chike, Sosuke, debi de maribe dunga do anega sore pension makruje jigilia an nöse be dunga do an denege ya ji nöse meabada dinina sosugi 튕기기 마다 왜 강아 아 튕기나 되네 마좀에 봐 야고 쉬어베네 야 넘시 규도 토네 안 차와 쳐대베 강아 줄로게 강아 룽수집에 강아 되네 동아 망고도 스나가 밀레 되네 동아 디상아 통셔스로 동아도 안 데레 하바 심전 둔로 담바다 동아 빠도메 용고도 제사 데레 타고도 심 되네게 삼다도 동아 데레 마타네 탑미누 셈비기 삼로도 숙체리고래 라슈데 삼당고야 되 금세니 동아 타고도 셈베 숙체리고 타고도 셈베 삼 숙십을 해야 돼 되네 다 숨바 니바 숨바로 시바딜라 가서 다 심전 탐주 동아는 자와데 닌제고도 닌지기스 대기대 덴바데 닌지기스 다 간에 지기를람나 니 콘솔야 디기 주위에 탑람 파 랍지캡 콘솔레 냠술 렌주 동아기 유뇨모 냠보 파디디에서 파텐체 냠보 검주체 이 동아라야 타와지기스 지상이 타투게 말 니바 요서 타투사데 셈베게 다 근데 랍라 gen지가 랍라 보즈라 네 콘솔 이길 랍 콘솔 신어서 투그레 셈베 삼 예저로 안디나시 네 콘솔레 네 콘솔레 냠보 람 냠는 제주제 근데 거기 셈잖아죠 거기 동아리야 자 지긴 셈베 데네게 닝도치게 데네게 어디다라 다 데네 인상 당 아랑을야 콘줄레 랍지 콘줄레 디기 주에 콘줄도 제발라 소소 녀랑아라 안에 연된다 뉴바템 바시도 고도 세상디 뉴바템 바데 상이고 봐 토바지고도 세상에 셈제 탐제게 디기 주에도 동아세알랭에 상이고 봐 마토다 탑미도아 셈베 삼다 상이고 봐 토바쇼 셈베게 삼로디 다 고미야디 근데 장시 셈 고미야서 삼다데 디르와 안디네 인자다 저기 다 데니게 동아 대라를 껴비게 수교구에서는 점력 건조숨게 껴버려 셈비게다 대치 대받침비게 투모 많이 배 점력 건조숨이야 안 사이고 건조다 안 전시선 뭐 파비게 된 안디 어가서디 고텐다 람데 수교구에 셈비게 델야 점로셔야다 점로서 데니게 접수로네 데네 팔라비아딜이야 파신줄래 랍긴 셈비 라요도 네 류가 있으니까 예저된 비 수직임에서 수좀 소야 아니 류가 있음게 게 셰케와스 게베자와라서 류론체 계속다 시안리아 파 콘솔리아 잔리 땅전에 디기 두긴 셈비게 패물된데 동의 선보 공야 데네는 시행기를 여바 제바이네 시안리 파야 콘로마라와제 콜레 잠제 곰도 버지긴 셈비 서보 공야다 데네게 시안리아 펜버도 소소 깔레가 주에나 펜버주에 깔레가 지나 제투버 지긴 셈비 서보 공야 어디네 개념은 제배 야보래 당이 무디니 지긴 셈비게 가신 조신 개와데 다 존재자다 어디 두신의 고민에 되는 저게 셈디야 지니게블 셈 남이야 샬라 마송하제 안지게 계절 파 주야다 되네게 안 뒤수유디가는 유 제시도 미데 띵예세 신의 주야 안 되네게 네삼 주야에 삼다다 주야 데네진의 가상 슈바나지 디첼이야 당아주 요몽에 자와디 간스 리기도 집에 다신 마릭 바세 리기도 디 다신 마릭 바세디 간스도 디방 투에 간스 방고 심비 제바제 두치도 안에 다음에 봐도 동반이 다 동반이 되셔라 레샤 디ngo 트네 데네 디콤비 동반이 고미야 두신다 디소레 당아주게 냠는 제야 돼 제가 데네 디수 차상 냠는 제투바 있나 다 탐지 김보고 봐도 유튜브 얼마 당네 주주고 다 다음에 봐 동반이 또 비셔라다 띵이지 신내라서 뭐 주마도 봐이네야 장주쌤 교군이 나야다 인지마다 추진의 세바 준비 공부나 아니 그 체대다 기본에 체계와 치마 하다 미고 봐도야 유체고래 땡데래야 냠는제 투에게 누바 규제사고래 지난 디니기 규제사도 디니게 냠는 제바이나 다시 송바이나 아주 셈나래 뉴벌 막선의 데니게 계획자와 뉴벌 샤반사 이제 셈 개와사바는 시리발의 냠도 캐려야 여러와 지상 단지 밀리터비가 동로 차가 말 망고 캐야 시부시 캐야지 여러와다 개와 망고 사자 시리급래 개와된 셈님도 캐르고 지상 동로 차가 말 된자 버자랄 막선나 도저를 막선나 배 야고 캔줘야 차고 되는자 저 동로 맞이야 세디 먼저 두스진의 냠는 제바 있나 다 동로 매봐 안에 지게 대행이 땡데려야 안에 계속 주비 뒤수디 다다 배제당 토바지 되는 용고래서 난 닝보된 아주 그신이 쉬바다 지수도 닝보도 삼다 냠는 제 뒤로와다
Here in the text, we're encouraged to recognize our precious human rebirth with all its potential. This potential we have to live a real transformative life, but that it's finite and is coming to an end. But up to now, so much of our time, we can come to recognize, has been spent in distraction. Distraction from what is truly meaningful. To the extent that we develop a determination to live a meaningful life, to turn away from distraction, to accomplish what is necessary, but to focus on what is important, then we will be able to cultivate with ease the minds that are presented here, because we will have the mental strength and determination to do so. So the reflections, the order of the reflections starts with reflecting deeply on the sufferings of samsara. This is an indispensable foundation. We need to come to know suffering, recognize suffering, suffering that we experience or have experienced, as well as the suffering that others are experiencing, and we therefore have the potential to experience them, in that we have those similar imprints too. Here we need to reflect deeply on suffering, on suffering and its causes, so that we give rise to a sense of deep dissatisfaction with this continued process of circling in cyclic existence. A wariness of, once again, reacting in the same way to the same stimulus, once again creating those same causes for suffering, and rather give rise to a longing for freedom from that, where one is freed from the arisal of attachment and desire that draws us in a direction, freedom from anger and aversion that arise and repel us from certain things. This yearning we need to cultivate. This is the mind of definite emergence. And it's the first step in the meditation. One follows that with lifting our vision from our own lived experience to drawing in the lived experience of others, recognizing that all other sentient beings are in the same position as me. Each and every other human being, animal, and unseen being yearns for happiness, a state freed of suffering just like me. But they too are trapped in this same process of circling in cyclic existence for the same reasons. Just like me, it's their afflictions that bind them in their suffering states. Whether their suffering state is right now in a war zone, or whether it's in an argument, conflict with someone, whether it's trapped in an unhappy relationship, or in a place of work they find unfulfilling, whatever form of suffering they are experiencing, they are trapped in these situations because of their afflictions. Hence, we tend to meet similar circumstances again and again and again, because those same causes are still abiding on our continuum. Moreover, where we observe others acting in ways we know are harmful, they are acting in self-centered ways and thereby destroying the environment, acting in self-centered ways and deceiving, taking advantage of others, acting in self-centered ways and thereby harming others. We recognize that these beings are suffering and they are creating the causes to suffer further. Thinking like this then, compassion will arise. May they attain a state freed of suffering. May they no longer be compelled to engage in ways that causes harm to themselves and to others. May they too gain freedom from their afflictions and their non-virtuous karmic traits. So here we generate love and compassion for others. But the way to generate love and compassion is, as I've described, which is using reasons, not just to merely, may others be freed of suffering, may others abide in happiness, but use reasons, recognize how beings are creating the causes for their suffering, and as well as how they are experiencing suffering. And also use reasons to see that they are at a fundamental difference, a fundamental level, no different from ourselves. Because I want to emphasize this, the importance of using reasons in our meditation. It's reasons that convince us to do things or not to do things. This we know from our everyday life. So to make our meditation truly transformative, it can't be a mere expression of aspiration, but it needs to be based on reasons. So this is the second step of the meditation. The first was definite emergence. The second is generating love and compassion by shifting our focus to others. And now the third is to generate actual bodhicitta, which comes about independence on love and compassion. And love and compassion comes about independence on the prior meditation on definite emergence. So it's when love and compassion arises deeply within us, the point will come when merely wishing for others to be freed from their afflictions and to abide in a state of lasting happiness, this mere aspiration will be unsatisfactory to us. We will want to bring that about. We will see it as our very responsibility, as my individual responsibility. Because by now, through our own spiritual development, we will understand the process that by which beings attain freedom, because we are striving in that ourselves, and we know others need to engage in that same process. So independence on experiencing our own spiritual development and our own developing skill at dealing with problems and our own growing peace of mind, we'll know this is possible for us, and therefore it is possible for others too. And thereby, we start to give rise to a genuine sense of responsibility towards others. But with this responsibility, which comes about through coming to know ourselves very well, we recognize our limitations. So we generate the determination, I need to become freed of limitations. I need to become a being that it has no limitation, and thereby has all good qualities perfected and can engage with others in the perfect way at the perfect time. And this then leads to the determination, I must become a Buddha for the sake of others. And this is how we generate bodhicitta, this powerful, courageous mind. So the first step in the meditation was definite emergence. The second was love and compassion. The third now was the generation of bodhicitta. Thereafter, the next step is to meditate on the practices of a bodhisattva. So these are the 6, starting with generosity, the wish to give of ourselves of others. And this can be expressed in many ways. Material generosity, to ease the suffering of others, giving of our time and our friendship, giving of our good advice based in the Dharma. Develop this wish to seek out opportunities where, in dependence or in relation to our skill and capacity, we can help and do so. Reflect then on ethics, the determination to restrain our mind from the affliction so that we do not harm others. When we're engaging with others, we do so skillfully, not harming them, always ensuring that our mind is refrained from the afflictions. Thirdly, the practice of patience. This is based on our prior generation of love and compassion, where we feel a sense of closeness and warmth towards others, a tenderness at whomever we call to mind. This then combined with ethics, with the determination not to harm them. And with this is the understanding of the mental process that people, for example, who act to us in a harmful manner, we know why they're doing so. They are helpless. They are overwhelmed right now by their afflictions. That's all. They are not a bad person. And moreover, our practice of patience is based also in generosity, the wish to give of ourselves to others. So with all these minds developed within us, patience is sincere and easy to do. No matter what we encounter, our mind stays undisturbed. And that is the practice of patience. No matter what hardship we encounter, whether from others or within ourselves, our mind stays undisturbed because of love, compassion, generosity, ethics, and wisdom. The fourth meditation is that of joyous perseverance, where we reflect on our ongoing spiritual development, we see the progress that's being made. We also recognize how our interactions to others are becoming ever less harmful, ever more beneficial, and we rejoice and commit to ongoing spiritual endeavor. Fifthly is concentration. So in these meditations, one tries, all of them are analytical. Concentration is the one that is not. So in the analytical meditations, we try and meditate in a way that's undistracted, and when we are distracted, we bring our mind back to what we are cultivating, whether it's ethics or generosity and so forth. And this strengthens our concentration. Moreover, when a feeling arises within us of perhaps of love or compassion, we rest with that, strengthen our familiarity with that mind, that virtuous mind, and that too strengthens our concentration. Then the sixth is that of emptiness, wisdom, the wisdom realizing emptiness, which we discussed yesterday. How does the self appear? Does it exist in this way or not? And one investigates, coming to recognize that the self is empty of existing in the way that it appears. It's merely labeled, the self is merely labeled onto the body and mind. So that then is the meditation to engage in, starting with definite emergence, love and compassion, bodhicitta, and then the various meditations of the bodhisattva, from generosity up to ethics, up to wisdom. And this meditation that one does, as you all have done right now by listening to these varying points and recalling them to mind, these all create imprints. These are the imprints that when this life ends, will travel with you to your next life and will determine the quality of the place of your rebirth, the realm of your rebirth, and the quality of that rebirth, the conditions you'll have there, as well as your potential to continue your spiritual development. So when we leave this life, we leave behind all our loved ones, we leave behind all our possessions, we leave behind our reputation and prestige. But what we do take are these imprints. Our luggage that we travel from life to life has no weight, but it has a powerful impact.
Duen Jeba, Duen Tumba, said Jorwa, then that doing over she is or just that. That is that Nyam Jimba, Sudu Pa, and Jiggy, Churda, Sansingi, Lord Duchine, Pa Jimba Tia, Jimba Tia, and Raw Jimby, Robacheva, Sigurd, Raw Jeba, Churda, Sansin, the Yundan, she and the Gaditon, the Lunga Yusmi, and the Shalia. Pampa Juba did the sheet that passing to Yamlina Duna, Dina, because Pampa Juba Chagua. The Pampa to be Gablia and Milia Chichi Diana, Judong, or Tixu Chigio, Bed, Yabuchin, Lunga, Juba, Namu, Yabuchin, Yambar Mawa, and City, Ninja, Kishi Yabushi, and Tusin Robachi, Kichi, and Yambar Mawa. Duen Juba, Sedum, the Nigi, Pan Yamlin Jipa, Consba Tushin. Nyamlin Jejuba de la Dunjuba, so Bene, Jona Jimba, that's what they Surimson Yakore, Jamji Comne Yakore, Dinitino Gomgor, Palapje, Consolia, Gomjuba de Dunjuba, Zore. The Duntumba says Jore. Tis not that Duntumba, Pacholia Gonjo, Mother, Soso Lapan, Soso Anyamlin Jagore, or that Duntumba. Jeza, Pajola, Dici, Cheba, Zamayimba. Pajole Jeju, Sosora Jegores, Jeza Rangi Majeva, Mission Jejus, Dedico Mares, Jeza, Jegor, Jeza, Tumbares, Jeza Dinashi, that Dingaji, Lapja, Tusioba Najin, Nanzu de Jingi, Tusushia, in Jegor, the share, the Colonel Shore, Dinga, Jegor, Jibba, Chasa Jiba Chatter, Jezan, Jegor, Colonel Chasa, Chasa, Dusia, the Chagore.
When one has generated bodhicitta, Then in the meditation, one meditates on the six perfections, those practices from generosity to wisdom. So these are the usual practices that one will, of a bodhisattva that one will meditate on. There is another list of 4 that one can meditate on in addition to these. And these are called the 4 ways to positively influence others. So the first, and these are in addition to things that one should reflect on, but guidance for how one should live one's life. So these 4 ways to positively influence others, how, as someone who holds the bodhisattva ideal, one should interact with others. The first is generosity. And here again, I want to emphasize the meaning of generosity, because when we hear this term, we usually think of giving material things. And this is, of course, included in material generosity. We've also heard how generosity is offering of one's practice. But certainly in this case, it refers to generosity practiced through one's body, speech, and mind. The mental side is the wish to give. And the expression of that is giving with one's body. So this can be giving material things. It can be providing help, being physically present for others, helping others. And through one's speech is through the way of speaking, helping others. So giving good advice and helping others through one's speech. So this is the broader understanding of the practice of generosity, goes far beyond mere material generosity. The second of the 4 ways to positively influence others is the way to verbally communicate with others. And also it would include physical communication. We should speak pleasantly to them. We should have a pleasant disposition. When we meet others, engage with others, we should ensure that our face reflects our warm heart, that we meet others and we display our joy and pleasure at being in their company. And we talk to them in a way that soothes their mind, that helps them want to be in our presence. So this is the second of the 4 ways to positively influence others. And it's literally speaking pleasantly or eloquently, but this should be taken to also include one's physical way of interacting with others. The third then, this is guiding others in how to cultivate the minds of the Dharma, how to cultivate virtue. So this will be, where appropriate, guiding others in how to be ethical, guiding others how to be generous, how to be patient, and so forth. So this really means teaching the Dharma, but doing so in a way that's specific or appropriate, that's suitable to one's own capacity, as well as the capacity of the person that you are engaging with. So that is the third, which really is teaching the Dharma, but doing so in a way in accordance with your own capacity and theirs. Then the fourth of the 4 ways to positively influence others is to act in accordance with what one is saying, oneself. In brief, it means not to be a hypocrite, or to express it differently, to walk the talk. So that where one is directly or indirectly guiding others in the Dharma, one should be living that life oneself. In particular, one's mind should be in accordance with the Dharma. So these are the 4 ways to positively influence others: generosity, speak to them in a pleasant way, guide them in the Dharma, and one oneself should live in accordance with the Dharma. This is something that we all need to do, myself included. This is how we should live our lives, because as those who aspire to the paths of the Mahayana, we aspire to have a positive influence on others. So we should take this guidance of the 4 ways to positively influence others as guidance on how to live our own lives. Then continuing with the the end of the 13th and into the 14th verse. Thus you are well advised to accumulate as much merit as possible, not being overly excited at slight pleasures, nor overwhelmed by trivial problems and difficulties. Turn away from the commotion of this life, and thus may all migrators attain sustenance through delight in the Dharma.
Didar damle sunam gantop di siduda, didar damle sidu cherim chigi ngi an duchine she dambas na cherim chu koronki ma dati ti chu sonya dil sigur ngi ma du sheba di sor. Den sheba la dene an ngi sunam bato me pa sa yore sor ngaran yada dene didar damle sunam gantop di sidu ngi dene ke da nyamling rin ba du susma chi klasan namda ge tone du sheba inza del ya ngal ya sunam bato me pa sa yore tokang to yore sore.
So this line, that you're well advised to accumulate as much merit as possible, should rather take that as being, thus I have accumulated so much merit, something like that. So Lama Tsongkhapa is saying about himself, through having given this brief teaching, he has accumulated so much merit, and now he's going to come to the part where he sets an example of how to dedicate the merit that has been accumulated.
Dinigi Jerim Chokorong, Dini Songshi, Kawa Sashibi, Sunam Sashibi, some did a semjing to the Moja, this Mugore. Kanismorasne, Kijang, Missen, Duja, Mipungi, Seluta, Anzulia, Kijang, Missen, Duja, Mipungi, Anzulian Dimurwada. Azuli Kiburo Chidi Kalibes, Namia Chen, and got that this one sent because the Jod Dangadis and some dungeon and Chige, Givi Chao Tuyegi, Sharago Chige, Yungo Mardan, Bene Kibu Yuna Churching Marese, and Share, Chesat so Kibu Yudikabla, the Nictanga, Jesus may eat Simba Chena and the Chige. Gao to your match with the Yungure, Digigomas, Giga, Missens, the Kibu Chiyoba in Nayam, that seems to eat Simje, Majoba Che, Sosugi, Kiwi, give a Kibu Junior, Gawak out of the 2 days or that Giga, Missens said. That Duga Mipung, like the Cashet Juda, that Pekanga, Chitanga, Hakanga, Hachika, Junamid, Hachipe, Nahosa Mare, some Jedushin. Sem shoe, Pambachin, the Pamjane, then Givi Java Madu, Ayumar, just at Duchin, didn't Jonah Punks in the Jonah Gores, then he sometimes your Marseco to do Buddha Kanga Chubi near that Kanga Jumar, Kewang, Glass, a good and Janet in Jumar, Hayama, then he get that YouTube Sunday table chewing, but some do some patch, he moved in some time, so Jonah, but the Hayama did, could Devuchi Zoro, what that Devu means Zoro, and then Mahubana, and then Kanga Yumarwa, then is that, then he got Mahubana, Digi, Kanga, Digi Juvia Delea, and Gawakama to the chickens and big. The same shoe gauge. To put you on a Gawakam to the 2 horses or the Giwujuna, Gawakam to the 2 horses or the Gigan Missen, 2 Gami Punwe, the Giwujun, the Dangatis or sometimes Gawajin, some mother Digio Mare, Giwujuna, Gawakam to the 2 horses or Jamni Jacomia, the Gawajia, the Ruada, Jamni Jacomia, Sem Gomia, the Sushi, Giwujuna in some dance. So Kanga Jumbe, Kanga to get Chutushin. The court lay you didn't do it to Jumore. That Mana Shankanga Shala, Shana Jaka Dumana Sawasho, Duma Mijo, so Jamnijocom, Chajusem, Mahobanam, Denigi, Mana Shankanga, Sem Gentita, Dunga de Yaka, the Nesu said to Bajikin Sibi, Duchan Jamnijocom, Jeza Denigi, Combaina, Kijam is a Dugami, Kiwujuna, Jamnija, the Chajusem Gom, Lamyam Nenche. Du Kanga Chubene, Jamni Jokom, Chaju Sem Gom, and Yamna Chore, so Denijeben, Gigam is a Dugami Boa, said this one.
Lama Tsongkhapa now, in the process of showing the example of dedicating his merit, he's doing so for the benefit of all sentient beings. So we can take this then as being both advice for us, as we are those for whom, included amongst those for whom he is dedicating. So we can take this as also advice for how we should be living our life. So in the first 2 lines of the 14th verse, not being overly excited at slight pleasures, nor overwhelmed by trivial problems and difficulties. So here the dedication that Lama Tsongkhapa is making is that all beings may utilize their precious human rebirth well, primarily really through developing their wisdom, and through the development of their wisdom to look at their life in a balanced, realistic manner, and not in the extreme manner that we currently live our lives. Because how we live our lives is really expressed in these 2 lines. When we experience some pleasures, our mind becomes totally overwhelmed with joy and happiness, and we bask in our happy days. And our mind turns from the Dharma. We may recite our prayers, but our heart's not quite in it. Everything is fine. On the other hand, when things are going well, our mind becomes dominated by these problems. And then when we recite our prayers, we may have more urgency, but our mind is really more filled with our problems than what we are reciting or trying to meditate on. And moreover, in both instances, our focus, whether it's on the pleasure or the pain of life, is on something that is fleeting and will soon pass. But it's dominating our mind, giving it a value that it just does not have. So therefore, this dedication is that may we develop our wisdom so that we can live more in a way that is more balanced, that we can stay centered. And the truth of what is expressed here we know. We think of all the problems that have tormented us so, well really we can't think of them. Most of them are forgotten. But at the time they were awful. And all the pleasures that filled us with such joy, they're gone too. Developing this, we'll stay focused on what's important. So what's included in this dedication from Lama Tsongkhapa is that as we become more balanced, more centered, more wise, the way we will experience life's pleasures and problems will be radically different. For sure, we want to experience life's pleasures and be freed of life's problems, but when they come, firstly, we don't allow them to overwhelm us. Secondly, we use them as a basis to reflect on the sufferings of samsara, reminding ourselves that even these mere pleasures have no value. And likewise, these sufferings, these are in the nature of suffering, they will continue to arise. And then we use it as a basis for bodhicitta. May myself and all beings be freed from being overwhelmed by pleasures of no real value. And may we rather turn away from all forms of suffering and attain the lasting state of enlightenment. This, then, is the way that a skilled practitioner relates to the pleasures of this life as well as the pains of this life. And this is the heartfelt aspiration Lama Tsongkhapa is expressing here.
Tseti tam nyenda an chige longju tubya itine chinde nga chige sosuge ozu na ya chig denigi namya ma u chen shone chue gop de pa chige ragyo marwa densa denigi tseti ge tam nyenda an chige denigi chapege chapa denigi namya digi pa loje denigi tubya di pa lo an gidi ne 지당한 쪽에 튕긴데 두고 거대 이나 그디네 개회자와 조심제 탐제 아니 개회자와 자대지 고미야 나지 잠 이제 샘제 탐제 동안에 자나 샘베게 개중 매중 고미야 아니 샘제 탐제 대화ਦੇ 때나 샘베 잠바 고미야 샘제 탐제 동안 들어와서 이제 고미야 되네 하산다 되네 자주 샘 고미야 두신의 고음제네 로군 취지 가외 초와쇼스 되네 고음제 고바이나 취기 초월해서 초화증을 주게 되네 칼라사지 마시버 되바나지 그것으로 초화세대 내바들 고와 제가 되니게 취기 냠는 제신 근데 랑라 가와 현라 가와 대두게 되니게도 냠는 제신 내버쇼 초화쇼서 되니게 Denigi never show us at the Manam Jagore.
Building on what was expressed in the first two lines, or the third and the fourth, firstly, turn away from the commotion of this life. This we normally express as the rat race, this busyness that seems to occupy every single day of our life. When we look at the busyness of life through the lens of what was presented in the first two lines, we see how it really has no essence, and how to continue to be overwhelmed by this endless commotion, this endless busyness. This is what distracts us from living a meaningful life. This is what consumes our time and our physical and mental energy. This we need to recognize and gain a deeper balance. There's some that needs to be done. There's a lot that doesn't. Then what we should rather be focusing on is the fourth line. May all migrators attain sustenance through delight in the Dharma. So by gaining a more balanced life, we have time to read and cultivate and meditate the minds of the Dharma within us. And as we develop skill there, by gaining a more balanced life, whilst engaging in our various activities that we do need to go engage in to sustain our life, our mind will be not so busy, and we'll be able to keep it on the Dharma whilst engaging in the various activities that one needs to engage in. In this way, one's mind is not caught up in the commotion of this life, but one is able to abide in the Dharma, both with our books, with our meditation, and whilst engaging in our ordinary activities. So in this way, our cultivation of the essential minds like definite emergence, love and compassion, bodhicitta, and the six perfections of generosity up to wisdom, all those that were mentioned in the meditation earlier, we can start to develop them ever more in meditation and keep them present whilst we're going about our daily activities. And when we left our last life and came to this one, and when we leave this and go to the next, all that we'll carry with us is our imprints. The imprints that we have accumulated through all this commotion, as well as the imprints we've accumulated through abiding in the minds of the Dharma. And it's those imprints that provide us with sustenance. So let's make the sustenance that supports our life, that be the virtuous imprints of the Dharma. And living this life will bring us great delight in the Dharma that is arising and abiding within.
On the ordinary that Jeremiah ngi dinima du chen chue she dama te she sunam patum ba sa yores di ngi sunam digi nuba digi an jowa semjen tamche gibu ji yone an chue nyamlen jang nyamlen che ya ji da an ji gangan chebe ne chue nyamlen che ya rawa shos denigi nyamlen che ne an ji ji mise denigi döna tempa miso so sho se de chugi gawa toyi denigi gyur sho se ni den o ja ba da döna.
In brief, Lama Tsongkhapa is setting the example of taking all the virtue that is accumulated and dedicating it to the welfare of all. May all beings develop a balanced outlook, focusing on what's important, letting go of what has no real value, and cultivating what's important, these minds of the Dharma deep within, and have those guide them and guide their interactions in all circumstances and with all beings. And in this way, may all beings rapidly attain lasting happiness.
On that hamadile that che pa jerim chilya and chik sunro che shuhendele ya ma chik sonye di songorda dinyin zhe sunam sing gusu divi ke lela ke Belden Shesha Gayu Mor, Gelon Lobsang Dorje me says.
Concludes with, so that all migrators in general can accumulate merits, as well as for artisans, those who have inquiring minds, and the wise and illustrious, all of whom are of great fortune, the monk Lobsang Dorje taught these verses urging to take the essence of this life.
Tisanda dinin drubi sunam shing se di susuge nyamlin che shen lia chue she dini chebe na di sunam sabi shing ri mi shanda la sunam sa chu ye ke sunam sabi shing ri so re sunam shebe shing dina je sanje da pabe ke chi yewi di sunam sabi shing la gro sunam sa ye shing jisan de sule dine shen lia sunam de gi ma mu tu tu go je sunam sabi shing Dina shen susuge nyamlin je jamni je jensim lo so bada nyamlin je dene jeba ne shen le pa she ne shen gi digi tuk tu gore je za shen le ge wa tuk tu gore sunam sa be shin des di ma ja ne ma zu gu su sang ji gu shen ya da dene gu chue den shen ya gu shen ya dene ge ane ji ge gu ji ya lo so ba dus chebe ne an dele dene mi shen da ge chebo pu ya da dene che ne sunam sa be shin cha gore je dine 주변 수남시 구수 세네 제자다 데네게다 매니 추 손로 셰세겐디 데네게 코로나 지게 되세 구수 샤야다 데네 캐바로 셰서와 데네게 아니 구수 디와 세야데 지게 디라 캐바서 베네 구수 샤야 캐바 베네 가서 이게 구시 구단 샤야라 캐바 Dene yang jik chue pa diwati ya mashin ba di pa diwati kana digre sen dusde khaba dene dila khaba ane khaba aso dila khaba ba den ane dene ge lo ning du pye ba aso re jesa da me sun sa de ngo so ya sun lo xie shu hen mi chi yo wa de le ya ane kono ni kono ji ku so shen ya de ane ku so ti ya de ji nang chu ti ya le khaba je ji ta ya go shen kono ne ji ge dene ning du pye ba ya go shira re sha sesangi de su ngor di ko kono ngol shi gi ye sa ji di xie ba sen su xie ba sen ne lo sa da ba de du sin song ba de sa ji de na ning bo di de da chue de song ye de ben song ba re song sa de la de song ba re chi sa su song ba lo sa de song ba re je za du sin ne song ba de ni je du si re se de na ning bo di de sha.
The meaning of this final verse then is that the monk Lobsang Dorje, Lama Tsongkhapa, was requested to give a brief teaching that will enable migrators to accumulate vast stores of merit. So therefore, he has done this. He's taught these verses urging to take the essence of this human life so that beings can cultivate seeds of virtue into the field from which all good qualities will grow. And those who requested this teaching would have been artisans, so perhaps sculptors as well as tanka painters, as well as for those who have inquiring minds. So those who have inquiring minds, the wise and the illustrious. So this refers to those who have interest in the Dharma, because as was mentioned earlier when we talked about meditation, interest in the Dharma ideally should be one based on inquiry, wanting to understand oneself well, wanting to understand why we are in this situation and what we can do about it, rather than just a mere blind acceptance, which leads to fairly weak recitation as opposed to deep transformation. So here, those who requested these teachings would have included artisans as well as those with a deep interest in the Dharma, and this is expressed by those who have inquiring minds and the wise and illustrious. So they requested the teaching, and Lama Tsongkhapa therefore taught this text, verses urging to take the essence of this human life.
nga shekhan ma shekir ma do shekhan ma do shiuji kyo le kyaba do pabas ka ma re nga chasan jigba re chasan nga chasan jigba nyam le di ma jer mi so de nga chasan la jigba la go re nga chasan la jigba la go re chasan nga chasan de ne gi nyam le je thye le be zu che wa de ne ge chim bu ra cha go wa.
The very essence of what we've looked at in these these days together is that we need to recognize this incredible opportunity we have, but that it is really finite. So right now, from right now, utilize well what remains of this life to train our mind in the manner that has been presented here. And this is advice from this great being Lama Tsongkhapa to all of us. And when I say all of us, I mean myself too. Yes, I'm the one sitting in front who's propounding, who's giving the teaching. But this is advice for all of us. Everyone needs to live their life in the way that is presented here. So I make this commitment to live my life in accordance with what's presented here. And it's my sincere hope that you'll join me in living a life of virtue in this way.
Bene sonam ya gosa yore ani nga kyong ju gi yin ji de ma nge nga le xie ra ba chi nga zo lo ji ge sonam ya gosa yore chi sang nga cha sa da tun yin de ne gi cha sa zo me di ge wa sa de gyu dan yin dian de mong bu ji zom je an sa gu gu re de ne da nga ju gyu de yin de ya an nga ju gi yin ji re an species re an di na xin an de ji ti gen an ce be re an yang ji ya 두가다 디투다도 젠디 아니라레 디멘비 경험 차상 좀제 나 차상 좀 발에 때네 용가서 차상 좀 발에 때네 용고를 마도 나 차상 맞좀 바나 인지 진이여베네 되네기 개와서요 거브라 나 차상 좀 발에 때네 도시네 개와서야 야고 중벌에 제사 경험 뒤수 통로질에 개와 빼면서 개심버 사요래 제사다 탈바다 탐지 kim비 고바토에 개와 치마 사람이 고바토에 유사요래 제사다 되네기 사쇼 개와디 먼저 미 통야요 말도 수주 도도로 저베나 형아들 마저도 모자나라 취야다 계획하고라 차야지 지 되스티와 샤샤 조가야 차기 년가요 진짜 되네서 되네 개침 버서 되다 소소이네 되네 사요를 빼야 없으면 가와고미야다 안지 뭐보다 안지 되네시네 지하라서 빼야고 중소와서 빼 가와고미야 되다 안주게 개바디 사베 개바디 레테네 안능아주게 지게 마 야오름체라 소바데 구시링도 때야다 안데 소버름체 아니 양시 뉴도 전바다 안디메제 점리나리아 안지기 네모 추수에 차상 신의 시대여야 심지어 탐지 디기도 영어 쇼세베 되니기다 만삼다 좀 와게래
Just in conclusion, when we now come to dedicate, but before we do, I just want to say from my side that seeing all of you here brings great joy to me, because I know you all came here with a good motivation, a motivation to develop yourself spiritually, to become the person that you have the potential to be. So you've all come here with a good motivation, a motivation to truly fulfill your human potential and thereby have an ever greater beneficial impact on those around you and our world in general. So this really delights me. So I want to say thank you for that. And also thank you for giving me the opportunity to read through this text, to think on its meaning, and to share it with you. I've accumulated a lot of virtue, and I've really enjoyed having this opportunity. So I also want to thank you for that. And then I also want to say specifically thank you to those who helped make this happen. So those in our present time, the director Dundrup and SBC Andy, as well as Drime, who looks after here, and of course the Venerable Tsepel, who looked after all of you through the many sessions and guided you, I know, with great care and with great skill. And then also to thank you to those who also contribute, and I don't know your names and what all the different people do, but many people helped make this time happen. And this shows, as something we mentioned in yesterday afternoon's talk, our deep interconnected relationship. We are not independent beings, self-contained islands. We are deeply interconnected. I've created a lot of virtue in these few days. Independence on the students and the staff. And you have all created a lot of virtue. Independence on your fellow students and the staff. So we recognize this relationship that we share with all beings, this close, entwined relationship. Now when we come to dedicate, we dedicate to the great leaders of beings, great beings such as His Holiness, that that may all the great leaders of beings remain in our world for a long time, and that those great beings who have departed, such as Lama Zopa, may they quickly return. Then we dedicate that all beings may develop the wisdom that was presented in this text. May all beings live virtuous lives, bringing no more harm into our world and only bringing benefit. And also, my English is a little limited. I have an understanding of the meaning of the text, but I'm limited in how I communicate this. So without the translator, this would not have been possible. So I mention this just as to further emphasize this point in conclusion on dependent arising, this deep entwined relationship we have. It's not our first time that we are meeting. It's not our first lifetime together. And it won't, and we'll continue to meet in this way, growing, developing, and contributing to each other's spiritual development and the spiritual development of our world. So thank you very much. Thank you.